University of Cape Town by Professor Chirikure. The title is Chirikure. Okay. The title is the Archaeometry and Urbanism at the Greater Zimbabwe.
I thought my name was in Chinese, so it was not difficult to pronounce in this part of the world. But anyway, it's my first name is Shadreck, and my surname is Chirikure. Chirikure in my language means something that is far away, but as you can see, I'm quite near you. So names do not always have a meaning, isn't it? Ni hao. I would like to thank the organizers for allowing me to deliver my presentation in Chinese. Anyway, I see you don't trust me, but thank you so much for awarding our research one of these most prestigious and coveted awards. I work with a team, and one of the team members, Professor Innocent Pigrai, is with us here. But what I also did was to ask a colleague who has been involved with the forum since 2013. I said, well, can you give me any tips? What should I do when I'm about to give the presentation? Then he said, well, it will be very easy. Just go and show them pictures. So that is exactly what I'm going to be doing. I'm just going to be showing you pictures. And pictures related to Great Zimbabwe and some of the work that we have been doing there. So here I have some footage, which was shot from the drone. And this is what is known as the Great Enclosure at Great Zimbabwe. Some stunning, exquisite dry stone masonry built using the precise placement method without any binding mortar. So we are moving from south to north from what is known as the Great Enclosure. If you had been to Zimbabwe in the 1960s, this open space we are just passing, it was a golf course. So you could tee on this ground. We are going towards the hill complex, which is one of the most stunning places at Great Zimbabwe. And then when we are at the top, we will have a 360 degrees viewpoint just to see the landscape. So the scars and that reddish soil you are seeing, that is all a result of treasure hunting activities in the late 19th century, early 20th century. So all excavated. We don't know where most of the objects that were recovered are. The geology, these are all granite formations, and yeah, quite millions of nicely cut and nicely shaped granite blocks were invested in the construction of Great Zimbabwe, which has been the focus of our research using a combination of techniques, material science approaches, bioarchaeological approaches like a stable isotope approaches, a bit of DNA, as well as landscape modeling. So we are now moving southwards back to the valley enclosures. We are now getting to where I said the golf course was in the, from the 1920s to the 1960s. And then from the valley enclosures, we go back to the Great Enclosure, which is actually one of those amazing pieces of masonry. So Great Zimbabwe is spread over 720 hectares, if not more. And there are also some outlying settlements. Here I'm just showing you a snapshot of some of the things that you would see if you were to go to Great Zimbabwe. The width of those walls is around between 2 to 3 meters. So if you drive a small car such as myself, that smart car, you can drive it right on top of that wall, just to give you an idea of, but if you drive those big American ones, then I'm sure you won't go very far. So that is what is known as the parallel passage, the Great Enclosure, and where there are those trees, that is the back of the Great Enclosure. That wall is 11 meters high. So just to an estimated 5 million blocks were involved in the construction of this structure. So that is how Great Zimbabwe looked like. And continuing with the same show and tell, what I will do is that I will also show you some of the features, some of the artifacts, and also perhaps make a brief commentary in terms of the story. So what we have here is that Great Zimbabwe in the late 19th century, early 20th century was not believed to be local in origin. It was believed that foreign people, Hamites, Semites, had come and built Great Zimbabwe, and then local people came later on to reoccupy the site. But so in the quest to find evidence of exotic occupation and also for commercial interests, that is why most people in the late 19th century excavated and looted some of the material. So that's the history of the site. And these are some of the characters involved, Messrs. Richard Hall and company. What you see in the middle there, it is all gold. Actually, a company which was named the Ancient Ruins Company was listed at some point in London, if my memory still serves me right, for the purposes of prospecting gold in these places. But away from this history, these are just features of the site, the Western Enclosure. And just to say that Great Zimbabwe is considered to be, it is an urban settlement with a class distinction. Lower classes, upper classes are all in this place. Great Zimbabwe evolved in stages. So started in period 1, but the occupation associated with the dry stone walling started in period 2 around 1800 through period 3, 4, and period 5. This is again the Great Enclosure from the background. This is how local pottery from Great Zimbabwe look like. We have been studying the residues to reconstruct the diets and some of the food that were cooked in there. Again, to your left, this is a section on the hill complex, but to your right, that is the conical tower within the Great Enclosure. Then evidence of long distance connections. This is part of what is known as the Renders Ruin Hoard from Great Zimbabwe. And this is a jade teapot from this part of the world. So maybe if the Chinese colleagues in this room would like to follow this object, the next Shanghai Forum could be at Great Zimbabwe. Wouldn't that lovely? More from China in terms of the ceramics. There's actually quite a lot. Here I'm just giving selected examples. Glass beads from the Indian Ocean, as well as more glass beads. And that one is a ceramic imitation of the conus shells that were made by the Portuguese for sale. The original seashells are part of the genus the conus, and that was widely used in Southeastern Africa. And then the Portuguese decided to make ceramic imitations. which is one of those ones, again recovered from Great Zimbabwe. In terms of metalworking, crafting, production and processing of copper, bronze, gold, tin, this is evidence for that, and we have done some studies on that. So these are remnants of jewelry as well as musical instruments, some miscellaneous items recovered from across Great Zimbabwe. For those who love bling, just in case you might feel left out, there is some gold from Great Zimbabwe. Again, heating, rivets, and so on. Glass beads exchanged for gold. And this is evidence of metal processing. Those are bronze spearheads and the molds. That object to the extreme left, labeled number 2, it is a copper ingot, and it's believed to have been produced in Central Africa. So networks from within Africa stretching for at least 3,000, 4,000 kilometers. So that's quite huge. So for the remaining minutes, what I would like to do is to say a few remarks relating to one theme that broadly intersects with the theme of this conference, and that relates to the population of Great Zimbabwe. So what was the population of Great Zimbabwe? Population demography is one of the most important things, particularly if you couple it with sustainability in any discussions, in any discourses related to urbanism, past and present, and hopefully in the future. So the general belief is that Great Zimbabwe had a population of 20,000 people. So 20,000 occupying 720 hectares. And of those 720 hectares, it's 30% that is living space. So if you divide that to come up with a population density, you will come up with a population density of just of nearly 7,000 people per square kilometer, which is exactly or nearly the same as the population density of modern day Hong Kong. So can we sustain this number? What I'm just going to do is to give you some method. In terms of what we did was just to think about the modern population in Southern Africa. As of 2016, Southern Africa from Zimbabwe, South Africa, Botswana, Mozambique, Zambia, Namibia, you could also add Tanzania, 116 million. And in comparison, Nigeria only has 170 million people. So just to compare, and also the population of all these countries was 7.6 million in 1890 or thereabout. Zimbabwe itself from 1890 up to 2010, the total population is nearly 40 million. I'm showing these numbers so that we can see that is the figure of 20,000 per 720 hectares. Can it be sustained by the evidence? And can we also try and use some techniques to come up with new figures? So we also did some comparative studies in terms of what is the population from the other places in the region. And these are some of the towns where those numbers were coming from. We combined ethnographic data with statistical calculations as well as ecological modeling. What we also needed to do was to confirm the size of Great Zimbabwe through mapping. We did phosphate surveying to produce these maps. We also did geophysics and building on the work which was done by Paul Sinclair and others. We also performed some archaeological excavations in outlying areas. And we also estimated the number of houses as a proxy for, coming at the number of people who would have occupied the different houses. So this is Carton Thompson's excavation, 10 houses in a walled area. So we then used this as the basis for estimation. Tom Huffman's excavation in the unwalled settlements, which we then used as the basis for projecting in other unwalled settlements, combining the geophysics, the chronology, and everything. So what we did was then to model the demography by period, and also coming up with the lower estimate and also the upper estimate. So what happened is that we produced a number of models. Model 1, which had a very high population, and also Model 2, which had a low population. We then dipped into the population database at the University of Pittsburgh and also at the University of Geneva, and did some population back projections. The result was that by around 1100 or 1300, the population of Great Zimbabwe would have been, of the district where Great Zimbabwe is, would have been between 11,500 to 13,750. And if Great Zimbabwe was the urban area, 20,000 would have taken the population of the whole district, which was 56,000 square kilometers. We also thought about the land that was required in terms of agriculture, in terms of cattle raising, and using the different statistical calculations. And then we also realized that if we were to do that, the land would have been substantial. And then we also, the other thing that limited the effectiveness of these estimates is that no burials have been recovered at Great Zimbabwe, but so only 30% has been occupied. So what we then concluded is that perhaps the population of Great Zimbabwe was quite low, maybe in the region of Great Zimbabwe as a center would have been around 2,500, but then there would have been a very intensified network with the hinterlands that would have resulted in the ebbs and flows of population and commodities to the center itself. So low density urbanism is something that is quite important in human organization. And the tendency today is to always focus on this high concentration, high density, but there are also some combinations and permutations which the people in the past innovated and resorted to have a successful living and to develop connections with people in very distant regions. With that, I say thank you.
Okay, thanks.